Okay, folks, welcome to the introduction to the ARMS SAV, which is the vehicle you see, but also more particularly the introduction to the system as a whole and how it works. There will be a video on how to build your own using the custom modules, but this video will simply be intended for use instruction, which applies in both cases. But if you want to make your own, there will be another video for that. So getting started here, we'll just walk around the vehicle and kind of explain what each of the modules do, and really just anything that separates this vehicle from any other vehicle that you may build. So what we have here on the front and also the rear are sensors that are involved in braking. So these can be thought of as your throttle. So if they are green, as the light indicates here, what that means is that there are no obstructions detected. These are obstructions that you can customize. So you can stop for players, you can stop for small grids, or you could stop for large grids. So these are intended to act as a braking system to know whether or not something is in front or behind the vehicle. Now in the previous model, we use turret controllers in a similar fashion to follow vehicles, but this time we use the AI blocks to follow vehicles or players. So the system is different in that nature, and what it does is it gives it a much longer range of what it can follow, and two, it makes it severely more reliable and accurate. So that's what we'll look at next, I suppose, once we go on in here. This centerpiece here, which involves a rotor, a hinge, some sensors, a red arrow indicating the direction towards the front of the vehicle, and then on top of the rotor and hinge we have our two AI blocks and a gyroscope, and this is known as the tracker module, and this thing will point at whatever it is instructed to follow. So this can be the player who tells it to the AI block to follow them, or it could be a beacon or a GPS point. So any of those targets are applicable in this situation. So moving on from that, we have back here the control block, or we'll call it the control panel. It just has a bunch of stuff that you don't need to know the details of right now. The instructional video on how to build on your own is going to get a little bit more into that. And we'll look at some of these features and how they work, but knowing how all this operates isn't essential. The reason I put it all together in one is so that the triggers and things that these timer blocks are called to do will not lose their function, since they're all just stuck together instead of them being separated like the previous version. So there's a lot less setup involved because of this. So I chose to, in summary, I chose to make one control panel here. Alright, so that's pretty much all that really separates this. So we'll just get in and have some fun with it. Now, you'll see my hot bars down there at the bottom. The first one is the system on button or trigger, and this is just going to turn the following system on, and it's also going to turn the following system off if you click number 2. And then I have the thrusters and the AI blocks also configured so I can quickly turn them on and off if needed. Sometimes the thruster is needed when you're driving outside of normal AI mode, or excuse me, outside of the ARMS system mode, if you're just piloting it yourself. So currently the vehicle is configured to follow me, the player. Something that this vehicle has that isn't standard, it's not part of the modules, I've just added this to this vehicle, is this ability to switch between the braking system. So you may not be able to read that because of the glare, but basically if you press 1, it toggles on and off whether or not this vehicle is going to stop if it detects a player within range. The second one is for the same thing, small grids and large grids. So before we add any grids in, all we're worried about is following me, the player. So what we can see which mode is currently activated, and multiple ones can be activated at once if you want all three. These three blocks right here represent those states, so you can see player brake is the display is on for that, so you know that this thing is currently tracking players. But we're going to go ahead and do another large grid because I think that will just work better overall. We'll be able to get a better demo vehicle. And I believe the large grid is here on the bottom. Nope, that's the small grid. There we go. Okay, so large grid brakes. Now, if we turn it off, let's go ahead and turn the player off as well. So it's only going to stop for large grids. So we're going to copy this vehicle, put this one in front. We'll drive this one will follow. Now, once the AI gets turned on, which I guess we can do after we designate the home that it's going to follow. This is beacon 1. This is beacon 2. Okay, so we can get in this vehicle, and you can do most, if not all, of this from your antenna as well, or your remote connection. You don't have to be in the driver's seat. So we want to go in to our control panel, look for AI. If you see the main blocks right here, these AI main blocks are responsible for not the tracker system on the swivel, but this is responsible for the flight mode. And this is another unique feature to this model of the ARMS product. So in order for this vehicle to be able to enter into flight mode when appropriate, these blocks have to be here, these AI main blocks. The tracker blocks are for the new tracking system, which is what points at what the target is. So in each case, for the task, we want to tell it to follow ground beacon 1 for both, because ground and flight mode are going to be involved here. So we have those on. Currently it's set to stop for players. We want to turn that, actually it's not, it's turned off now. Okay, so we can go ahead and start up. So I'm going to hit 1, and what you'll notice is the wheels are going to swivel, which means the system is calibrating. And matter of fact, instead of pushing 1 here, which would activate the system, I'm going to go and do it manually so you can see this tracker swivel. It's going to rotate for about 2 or 3 seconds, and then it's going to hone in on its target. And the reason that it has to rotate is to recalibrate all the sensors that are involved to make sure that any that were previously triggered are not considered triggered on this new boot up. So right here, this is the system on, and that's the system off blocks. When you trigger one, it turns that one off and turns the other one on. So we're going to do this. Actually, I can back up and see the whole swivel. So there's the rotation, and then it's going to stop and then go to its target, which is in front. So now the system should be working correctly, and we should be able to just drive away and see how this works. Okay, so we have our vehicle in follow mode. I'm going to go ahead. Okay, we've passed its parking detectors, so it is not detecting anything in front of it or behind it. And if we slow down and stop, roughly 150 meters it will brake. Alright. And you can back that braking distance off as well. It's just going to start following at a later time as well. So, limitation of the system as it currently is. Okay, now we are going to see how flight mode works. Once we passed our park range, it should start following as normal. Now the way flight mode works is the hinge that the tracker system uses. Once it surpasses negative 33 degrees, which is what I have it set to right now, but you can change if you feel you need a different degree setting. But currently, once it reaches 33 degrees looking upward, it's going to activate the air follow system. And there's at least 2 consecutive seconds that need to happen for this. That way it can allow for deviations in terrain. So if the vehicle that the machine is following happens to be above it because it's going up a hill, you have a little leeway there. Okay. So as you can see, we've entered into flight mode, and no matter how many vehicles you have, they'll all do this, each in sequence. And so we can go up here and land. Now it's important to know what constitutes the vehicle detecting whether or not it should land. Currently with this model, I have it set to 100 meter elevation. So here's the sequence of how things work. Once you enter into air mode, it's going to ascend towards you. Once it passes 100 meters, you will be considered clear of the ground, and you have to clear the ground, so you have to clear the 100 meters after you take off in order to land. So once you surpass 100 meters in your flight and you're ready to land, you can head back down. And once the rover detects that it's been within 100 meters of the ground, after 5 seconds, it will then initiate ground mode. And you can change these timings and the elevation settings to your need. So it should be soon here that one will land. There it goes. You can see the thrusters turn off, blows that tree out, and it's ready to go back into follow mode. Now the hinge is not the only way. Well, hopefully that doesn't get stuck on that tree. Okay. The hinge is not the only way that this mode can be activated. If you are to ramp off of a cliff and clear a certain amount of elevation for a certain amount of time, that will also trigger the air mode. So we're going to try that out, and I think it's 15 meters off the ground for 2 or 3 seconds, then it will enter into flight mode again. So, alright, send it. This way you can ramp off things without having to worry about crashing. So it looks like he ramped off that hill above those trees maybe, and got a little early detection on his flight mode. So there's 2 ways you can enter into flight mode. Those are them. I will say this about exiting flight mode back into ground mode. Sometimes it's slow, and that's why I have it at the 100 meter mark, because notice how it's hovering above me, and it's probably 150 meters above the ground, maybe 100, depending on the angle here. But if it doesn't get to that 100, it takes forever to slowly descend towards it, which I think we're experiencing now. It's exactly what I mean. So one thing you can do, I think, it seems to work for me, is that if you move, it will descend faster. And so it's probably going to cut off here. Oh, it already did. Boom. Alright. So there's a tip for that mode. Okay, let's talk about the park sensors on the front, back, and internal as well. So there are, on this vehicle and any vehicle that you make, there are going to be 3 sensors that cause the vehicle to park. So you have this one here in the front, this spinning object, and so the way it works is it checks every few seconds to make sure that a new target has been detected, and if not, then it will turn green. So right now it's set to a pretty far distance for us to use in this example. So we're just gonna, actually 100 is okay. Notice how right now it's not green. Well, the panel is green, but it's not lit. If we hide from this camera, you'll notice that the green light turns on. And what that means is this sensor does not detect any obstructions, and so it has the green light to go. Alright, same thing with the back. Works the same exact way. And something that's important is how you block the view of these sensors. So you can notice that I kind of have a fan here. That way things to the left and right of this sensor won't get detected, but more like in a cone. So you can see if I hide back here, the light turn on, there it is, and when I come back in, it goes off. So you're going to want to work with that, but the way I have it set up with this vehicle, I think it works pretty good. The internal sensor basically forms a box around the vehicle, okay? And so however close you are to this sensor right here is going to determine, and its settings, is going to determine the range at which the vehicle will stop if the player is detected. So this just basically allows you to be inside of the vehicle, because the park sensor in the front and the park sensor in the back, those aren't going to detect you. So it looks like maybe we need to widen this a little bit. So we're going to bump it up to 50 meters, do it at the max. That way we can leave the side and not have that same problem. So let's go ahead and guide this thing backwards. It should be set to like 40, I think, here. Okay, so, and that's another tip I have about the rear sensor, is that if you keep it at about 40 meters, that allows this rover to not stop if another one's following it, because the one following it is going to stop optimally 200 meters for this model. So we don't want to have this set at 200 meters as well, because it's just going to be blocked by the vehicle behind it. If you want to know how to make your own model or tweak the settings a little bit more for your situation, there is going to be another video on that. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Discord, which is located in the video description.